Anecdotes for success. Level up with truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspective.
All right, tonight we have the Jake West on the podcast. Jake is pretty much the definition of a student entrepreneur. I know we use student athlete a lot, and you were an athlete in high school too. But Jake's a student entrepreneur. He's an ex-student of mine at the New Visions Honor Academy, of course, and Matt was a big influence and a mentor on Jake. How you doing tonight, Jake?
Doing good. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so back to what Paul was saying. I was a student in class of 2019. I was a New Visions Honor student and really enjoyed the class a lot. We got to learn a lot about business, and we tied in Matt with the class, and he was actually a fantastic idol in that during that process. He allowed us to actually go through basically a mock simulation, but it was real, I should say, about doing Clemens Center. So it's a local business around here that hosts shows and all that. So we were able to actually dig into and set up our own shows, hosted shows, and get to see all the finance and the nitty gritty parts of it. And I feel that actually helped in my own personal business.
Yeah, Jake, I had real money on the line, so don't ever use the word mock.
Yeah, no, it was true money.
Matt, explain a little bit about what we did. It was always pre-COVID, and I know we've talked about bringing it back again, but explain to everybody what we did with the class.
Yeah, I will. In fact, Jake, I'm glad you said 2019. I was trying to remember what year you were, and before I do that, though, let me say this: Jake, you were, and I'm not saying this because you were here, but you stood out in a real way to me. The first time I went into the classes as someone who was really entrepreneurial minded, even at that what I consider very young age to be entrepreneurial.
Thank you. I was 17 then, so thank you.
Yeah, and you'd already had your business going, and I remember asking you about it, and you had the kind of answers that you get from someone who actually knows what they're doing and knows where they're trying to go, and it was really impressive. And I'm looking forward to talking to you because it's been a little while, see where you have gone, but nothing you tell me is going to surprise me because you did make an impression on me then. But just to back up what Paul, you just mentioned, what we've done is we've actually taken we've taken shows, events that we actually buy, comedy or music or whatever, and then there's two classes, a morning and an afternoon class, and each class will actually promote that show and do the marketing of it, rent the theater, do all the PR, set ticket prices, work with the venue on the whole setup of it and all those kinds of things. And it's at a real theater, and me as a guy who has been doing shows for a lot of years, the place we do it is a real top-notch place. So it was one of those things where, Paul, when you and I got started kind of talking together and working, getting involved with your class, I said, I'm not just going to be someone who comes in and spouts off about what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And let me tell you, I have all the answers, which I certainly don't. But I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And then, the cool part is we've been able to create a scholarship program out of it, which is in my father's name, and some of that kind of stuff, which really helps to give back to the students and do some fun things that way. So just to give everyone a little bit of sense of kind of what that's about. But with that said, Jake, that was 2019. It's been a couple of years. I know you're still around locally. What's keeping you busy now?
Yeah, so I'm still kind of doing the same routes as what I used to. Still working over at the car dealership and still doing the landscaping business, which is doing fairly well. I would say it's gotten busier. I've definitely gotten much busier. I'm still doing school as well. So I do notice that college has made it a little easier because the schedules are a little bit more flexible. Right now, I'm currently about 60 lawns a week. and then trying to work 25 to 30 hours over at the dealership.
So you're still running your landscaping business,
Yes.
which you'd started when you were in high school, which you were 17.
Yeah, I started a little earlier than that, but it wasn't much. It wasn't much before that. I mean, high school, when I got my license and, got a vehicle, that's when it really started to escalate.
Why? Why'd you start that business?
Why did I start it? So I always, even from a little kid, I always was entertained by, tractors and lawnmowers, like any little kid is. But then I really started kind of taking pride in it. Like even doing our own lawn, I really liked, making sure it looked nice. And then it all started really with my neighbor. I started mowing our lawn, and then she, as a joke one day, said, "Hey, why don't you come mow mine?" And she was an elderly neighbor. I almost looked at her as like a grandmother. And from there, she told her friend, which was across the neighborhood. And then by the age 15, 16, I had about 15 customers just in the neighborhood. So I thought I was, the king back then, just staying in the little neighborhood, pulling my lawnmower or the wagon around. But then, like I said, after I got my license, that's when it really started to boom.
So when you were doing that, back the neighborhood lawns and stuff, you're adding lawns, obviously doing, whatever the number was. What was it the money? Was it the fact that you like making things look pretty? Was it independence? What, you know what I mean? What was it?
That's a good question. I think more, it was nice to have a little bit of cash on hand, but back then I was charging $15, $20 a lawn. So, but I didn't have a job back then. So that helped out. But I just liked helping people. I like just, making sure the neighborhood looked good and, cared for everybody and just seeing everybody happy with the work I was doing.
Well, that's a great answer. And I was curious because I didn't know the answer, of course, but it's one of those things where so often, and I just had this conversation with someone the other day, and the people who succeed generally aren't chasing money.
Right.
There's something else there, whether it's the neighborhood looks nice. I like helping people. I want to build the best mousetrap. I want to build the best widget. I want to impact the world in some beneficial way. And I just find it interesting that so often businesses, entrepreneurs, business people are viewed through this lens of, well, it's a greed. Obviously you're doing it, Jake, because you're greedy. And I can't think of any entrepreneur, any successful one who's lasted long term, who I've had that conversation with, and they said, it was really because I wanted all the money so that I could live in a big house and have nice cars and impress my high school friends. It's generally not the case. And I'm sure those people exist. I don't think there's that many of them, and I don't think they generally last, though. So anyway, I was very curious as to why. So I appreciate that answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it really is. I just found the passion to do it, and I just kept doing it, and I'm still, doing it. I don't know why. I still enjoy it. I still like making things nice and, helping out my original clients. Because actually today, knock on wood, I still have all my original. I've only lost 3 or 4 since the beginning.
Right.
So
right.
Obviously there might be something doing right there to where if you can keep a good clientele, but I'm just fortunate to have the ones I do.
Well, that's a beautiful part of the whole thing, right? If you're gonna keep your customers, you got to make them happy, and if you don't make them happy, you're gonna lose them, and that's a wonderful thing because they'll tell you whether they're satisfied or not. They have other options, right? So that's a good thing. So you're doing that. Do you have employees at this point? Is it just you? How's that look?
So what happened, this is kind of a little bit of a drag on story, but so right before COVID hit, I was around 35 lawns, maybe 40, but doing it all by myself. It was perfectly fine. School was, everything was normal at school. So I had a pretty good schedule. So I made everything pretty routine. Once COVID hit, things got a little out of hand. I thought for sure that I was going to start losing people because people were out of work, home more. So I decided to add a couple more lawns and, make workload a little bit heavier. Well, it was the complete opposite of what I thought. Everybody wanted their work done because they wanted to focus on their families. They wanted to focus on other things, activities they wanted to do, little
Wow,
DIY
interesting.
projects,
Yeah.
that type of stuff. So actually business exploded. And I got up to 60 lawns, or roughly 60 lawns. From there, I hired one of my good friends from high school. And so I had him helping me, I think it was one day a week. And that was all the lawns that we did in town, all the small ones, we would knock out 30 in a day. From there, I still had him up until this year, but unfortunately he has to go for a job internship this year or this upcoming year. So I'm going to go back solo again, but it's definitely nice having the employees. Overhead, I mean, it costs a little bit more liability, but if you find the right person, it's absolutely worth it.
Of course.
We talk about this in length. We've talked about it in class. We had lunch a week or two ago and talked about it. You have a hard time wanting to scale this out, don't you?
To a certain extent, yeah, because I've seen companies around here, not bashing anybody, but I've noticed that they explode quick and then quality falls through the floor because you're hiring, more and more people. They start to care a little bit less than what you actually do. Actually, I was just talking to one of my neighbors. He has a business and he said he's hired 12 people this year. And I've actually talked to some of his clients this year and they said, seeing 12 different people throughout the year kind of turned them away because they didn't see repetitiveness with quality. So, I mean, it all depends. It's right now, it's hard to find workers everywhere. I mean, no matter what type of business you're in, it really is hard to find people. I would like to get a little bit bigger, maybe scale it out a little more, but it just depends on what I can find for workers and, the cost of it, because again, costs are going up and just find that happy medium.
I know I always play devil's advocate, and I'm always kidding you about scaling it, but part of the reason you're going to be so successful throughout your whole life is the fact that you do take that pride and it means something to you and you like helping people. So yeah, sure. So, I mean, I joke with you, but you'll do something eventually. I mean, whether it's scaling that out or, I mean, I was talking to you last week, whether you move on to some other adventures, which we'll talk about later in the podcast, but due time. I know I pick on you, but you're doing it the right way.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a tough question, Jake. It's one of those things like I've had to make the same decisions myself and, a variety of times. And it's not an easy decision because you pointed out there's costs involved. There's quality judgments to make and all these kinds of things. So, but it's part of the game. It's part of what you do as a business.
It is.
Right. You make these decisions, you learn from them, you live with them and you move on. That's life. So you got that. And then you're in school, you're still, you're in college. And what are you studying?
I'm studying business administration and then I'm in a minor in management. And then I'm thinking about concentrating in some sort of financial management. Not sure if that'll be, not necessarily like a CPA style, but more of like personal funds or, how to balance your own personal business a little bit better.
Okay.
Just more of a personal finance.
Gotcha. So what's the motive for being in college, considering you have, your own business, which I think anyone who has any inkling of your business and what kind of person you are, you could certainly turn that into a bigger business than it already is. Plus you have other work interests. So you're not a guy looking necessarily for a job, is my impression. I could be wrong. You can tell me. But so if that's the case, what's the motive for school?
So I don't know. I was just kind of a personal drive. I think I went to, Corning Community for 2 years. And after I graduated, there was the option of, just finishing with that and kind of moving on to work and focusing on that. But I just didn't feel like I was ready yet. I feel like I wanted to go on, study a little bit further. I mean, yeah, my associate's degree was great, but I just feel like I wanted just a little bit more knowledge on certain things and certain focuses. And the only way to do that was to go on, I feel. I mean, I could have learned some of it, through mistakes and stuff and through the business and all that. But I mean, I just like the social aspect of it. I kind of like the routine, of getting up and going right to class and meeting new people and kind of building my network and connections through that way too.
No question about it. There's a lot of things that are valuable about it, and I applaud you for doing it. I think it's I don't think, especially if you're going to be in business like it looks like you are, and come out with a degree, that you're ever going to regret it. I think it's has a lot more value in other areas, some of which you just touched on, that we don't generally talk about when we have this conversation. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely get asked that a lot though. A lot of people are asking, why are you in college? And it's just, again, it's kind of that brief description. I'm not, I enjoy it.
Good.
Jake, what has always stood out with you is, obviously the class I teach is an honors class. We have a lot of bright students, a lot of motivated students, but they get talking about jobs and money and careers. And, in class a lot, they talk about an end date someday. They talk about retiring. And you're the perfect recipe for success, because I don't think you'll ever retire. It's like I'm talking to a young Matt Huffnagel right now,
Well, thank you.
Well,
not as good looking though.
Well, because Matt, you and I have had multiple discussions about the whole financial independence, retire early. If you stop doing something, it's because you've set yourself up to still make money with it, Matt, and then pivot to something else to challenge yourself and build more assets and just help others. Jake's going to do the same thing. Like, Jake's not going to just have a lawn business, or he's not going to own a car dealership, or he's not going to help people with personal finance and someday just call it quits. Like, you two are almost from the same mold, and that you're just never going to stop working.
Well, actually, some of my thoughts are actually from that. When he was teaching our class the one day, and he told us, you hear all the people saying, do what you like and you'll never have to work a day in your life. He kind of took a spin on that and just hit it home. He said, do things that you like and you won't have to stop working. You'll find ways to keep going, and, that type of actions, it will really help you. I mean, because some people you can't wait to retire. But why? I mean, what are you looking forward to? Do the things you want to do now, because if you get to an age where you can't do it, then you'll regret doing it. So if you do the little steps ahead of time, you'll check them off quicker, and you'll be more fit to have fun and do what you want and what you like.
Yeah, everyone talks balance, and balance is a big word. It's an important word. And I just, my philosophy on that, and I won't get into it too deep, but, is just that, like, you want to live while you're young and can do things, and you want to have those experiences, but setting yourself up in a way where you can enjoy those is a wonderful advantage. But it takes planning, it takes sacrifice, it takes risk, it takes all those things. And, the way that most people do it, and you guys both know this, isn't the way that I believe is the best way frankly, for the long term or the short term. And Paul, maybe that's a podcast in itself. Someday we could get into some of that, because a lot of people do like that discussion because it is interesting. But there's definitely something to it. I'm glad that what I had to say made a positive impact on you, Jake, because, as you know, that's my reason for being there, is to try to do that, because I never felt I had enough of that from the school system growing up. And, Paul, that's your class is just, it's unbelievable what you provide. It really is. It's crazy. There's so many kids benefiting from it. So, Jake, so you're in school, you got your lawn business, and you're working at a car dealership, right?
Yes.
And what are you doing there?
I'm basically their go-getter guy. I just run around and do a lot of the stuff that they need done. Every day is different, and that's what I love about this job. It's never the same thing. I mean, today I was running bags of salt forklift to different dealerships. It's cool because they give me my own truck to use. So I have my own freedom. I can run to all different dealerships. It depends though. Like I said, some days I'm here at the Hyundai dealership. Other days I'm down in Subaru, down in PA. It really is cool because the boss is here. owners are super flexible. They understand that I'm going to school and still own a business and stuff. So they make it very reasonable, very flexible for me to be able to accomplish outside work, let alone the inside work here.
So with that said, it certainly sounds like they must value you.
I
So
hope so.
why do they value you, do you think?
That was my exact question. I want to hear the answer to this. Why are they so flexible with you?
I think because they see something, they kind of see a drive, not to spiff myself up at all, but they see a drive and kind of see a reasoning for me to be here.
Yeah.
And, I completely appreciate that by them.
So are you, and I do know one of them quite well, and I know, I've got some relationships there, and they're not dumb people. So if they're giving you that flexibility, they must see something in you. Are you getting opportunities in sales, marketing, finance, salt distribution like today?
So yeah,
liquid.
and I was actually talking to Paul about this the other day at lunch. That's the nice part about this job is being able to go to all these different places. I get to see every aspect of this business. I get to see sales, I get to see finance, I get to see parts, service,
Yeah.
even all the general contracting, the fixing of the place, all the expense, not all the expenses by true number, but all, what things could be tuned up, what could be, tuned back down, and all the different processes that keep a true business going. And yes, it is just specified to a car business, but it also kind of gives a general model for any business. It shows that there's a lot of costs, but a lot of different moving parts that have to work together to make sure it runs smoothly.
Yeah, no question about it. And I mean, for people who don't know, and I'm sure most don't, we're not talking a tiny little car dealership either. This is quite a dealership.
Yeah, yeah. On our full seasons, we have about 3,000 to 4,000 cars. So it's a pretty full dealership. I mean, right now with COVID times, we're a little on the thin side, but still doing pretty. Yeah, exactly. Isn't everyone? But we're still doing pretty good for the time being.
Yeah, good. Well, that's what I was curious about, whether you're getting your hands into all these aspects, because you nailed it. There's so many moving parts, and there's so much that goes on, and not only are the parts moving, like you said, but you've got to get other people interacting together within these different areas in order to be efficient and focused, and so you can ultimately hope you make a profit, which is obviously a part of the goal if you want to continue to employ people and run the business. So it's what a cool thing at a early part of your career to have access to. So that's
absolutely I'm honored to. Some people look at it as kind of like the laborious type of job, but really, I mean, it's the learning stage because you actually get to see also what doesn't work and what does work, even employee wise. So-and-so did this and that needs to be changed to actually make it more efficient, or, anything like that really helps. Just even be present to see that helps.
Yeah, Jake, my opinion, for whatever it's worth, is at this point in your career, you're in the knowledge stage. It's in the learn everything you can. And if someone's willing to open up the vault of knowledge and let you behind the scenes to see things, I mean, easy for me to say, and I don't know your financial situation, but frankly, I don't care. At this point in your life, it's like, take the knowledge. It's worth and way more than what anybody can pay you.
Exactly.
Yep. I don't know what they're paying you. I don't care what they're paying you. You're making so much more for your future being in this position. Because I know a large number of people your age, approximately your age, even older, who would go, well, I only do this if I get paid that. And I know those people 10 years later when I see them, because I know where they are in their careers. And then there's the other people go, give me the knowledge, give me the knowledge, give me the knowledge. I'm gonna make my money later with the knowledge, which is what you're doing. It pays off exponentially. It's not even close. So you're in a real good spot, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And that's what I want to pivot into and take the next couple minutes talking about. And that was a great you almost like segued into it, Matt, without even realizing it.
I'm professional.
Yeah, well, in many ways, yes, yes. So Jake, I remember discussions in class. I mean, kids in high school were dumbfounded with the money you were making as a high school student with your lawn business. I don't know if you remember.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry if you hear that background noise.
No, that's okay. And that's my next point. You've, in perspective, compared to your age, you've always made more than the average person your age. Fair enough?
Fair enough. Absolutely.
And
I'll take it back.
that's okay. Pro athletes make millions and then someday run out. So you are a super child right now and a great entrepreneur at a young age and figuring out ways to make money and still go to school and learn. You have your job, you have the landscaping business, and then you still find time to learn at your job and at school. But how important is saving any of this money? Or do you just spend it all?
Oh no. You save, but you also.
And I know the answer to that. That's why I asked.
No, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some bad spending habits every once in a while. It just happens. But no, I'd say at least 95% of it. Well, take that back. 95% of the business, I try to invest back into it to kind of regrow that business. But there's a certain tipping point. I mean, between the two jobs, yes, I try to save majority of what I can. But there's also, with the business standpoint, there's a time where you have to reinvest. And unfortunately, the summer was one of them. Had a couple major pieces of equipment go that, do cost quite a bit of money. So it does cut into the profits a little bit, but now I'm good for the next 5, 6, 7 years. So it's previous years. Yeah, I've saved a ton of that money for the business and just kept packing it away. So then when it came time like this year to buy all new equipment, it's already paid off and it's paid itself off before it's even come out of the bank account.
So as far as reinvesting, you understand the importance of cash flow, obviously.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the whole cash flow thing, I mean, we touched on it in class, which was huge because if we didn't learn about that, then I'd kind of be lost. But we also got to see it when we were out in the community, with these stores of how cash flow actually really does matter, because some of these stores, even though they have low profit, they still are turning over a good comeback or turnover because they learned how to do the cash flow properly.
Yeah, cash flow, if you're in business, and I was like you, Jake. I mean, my father was a business owner, and when, growing up, I remember him talking about cash flow, at home to me, my brothers, whatever. I was always like, it didn't mean anything. It was just, they were just words, you know what I mean? It just didn't mean much. And then you get out in the business world, and I remember this as I got into business going, oh my gosh, this cash flow thing is it, you better have that buttoned up to some degree, right? You got millions of dollars of inventory sitting there, or equipment, or labor costs. If you don't have those sales coming in to drive cash flow or an answer to that, you've got a real problem. And the best way to create the best way at the beginning to create the cash flow or protect the cash flow is do what you were talking about. And that's what I did. I just didn't spend any money. I just saved as much as I could because I knew there were going to be some rainy days, the days,
absolutely.
The days where maybe you lose a big client, the days where your equipment breaks down, the days where it's the off season or whatever the case may be. And if you don't have, if you're riding in your brand new car all the time and have all your fancy stuff you bought with your profits, and all of a sudden it's time to make payroll or do what needs to be done for the business, it can put you out of it can put a healthy business out of business without the right cash flow, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
I mean, and another thing I found, very cool is you don't need to start a business. Everybody thinks you need brand new everything, the top of the line, pristine stuff. For some businesses, yeah, maybe. But I started off with a 1972 tractor. I mean, it was as old as dirt. And
Wait, I was born in 72.
Sorry.
No, I was, but I know what you mean.
But yeah, so I mean, you see some of these companies starting out with, $15,000-$20,000 pieces of equipment. That's going to do the same thing as a $500 piece of equipment. I mean, and until, yeah, you're going to have some breakdowns with older stuff, but it's still sometimes cheaper in the short run to do that and then save up until you can buy, the big piece of equipment that will last you the next 5 years.
Yeah, build my thing's always, Jake, build your sales to be able to support those other investments. Don't make those investments and then start trying to build the sales. Your sales might not build at the rate you hope. It's always
Right.
I always say building a business, it's sales first, second, and third. Everything's sales at the beginning. Once you got a good business, now let's start talking about operations, systems, and equipment and accounting and human resources and marketing. Not that all those aren't important. Of course they're important. But if you don't have revenue coming in, if you don't have cash flow coming, if you don't have sales, you can have the best piece of equipment in the community and the best operating systems man can think of. You're out of business. Doesn't
You're out of
matter.
business. Yep.
Sell, and then worry about everything else. That's always what that's my philosophy, and I think it's right at the end of the day. I think it's safest at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So Jake, let me ask you this. You're a youngish guy. You've got a lot going on. What's the future? Do you have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan? And I'm not saying, but first of all, I'm not saying you should. I'm not sure I ever have in most cases, and I certainly didn't when I was your age. But is there this is where I want to head kind of thing, or are you kind of playing it a little bit more up by the seat of your pants and see what opportunities come?
Right now, I'm kind of just doing that same option. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I wouldn't say that far. I definitely want to stay here at the dealership and see where things bring me. Keeping all opportunities open, all doors open. Definitely going to keep the lawns business for now, just because there's a need for it. I mean, I am actually turning people down right now. Actually, up until this Monday, I was mowing. So I've had 33 weeks of consistent work that has not stopped. So I just personally, I can't see me giving that up yet, just because I don't know if it's not even just about the business. It's more about the people. I can't just let go of my clients just like a pile of trash. I couldn't do that. I care for them too much. I want to make sure they're there and okay. Because a lot of them now, I mean, kind of digging deep into this, a lot of those clients now I've had for, 7, 8, 9 years. And, they're almost like family now. You almost treat them to that point. I mean, I try to send them Christmas cards and stuff in wintertime, around Christmas time, just to kind of show that, hey, I'm still here. I'm not mowing your lawn, but I'm still, present around. I do a little bit of snow removal, but I don't see them enough to, really sit down with them. But another thing I try to do in the summertime is I try to sit down and talk with them all. It does take a little longer out of your mowing route, but I would say, 9 out of 10 people every time I stop and I actually try to have at least one conversation with in the day, if they're home or if, they're present, just to try to keep up with them, see how everybody's doing, and just to keep that connection, because I feel that's part of the business, is just to try to keep connected with everybody, to where others, it's just get in, cut the lawn, get out. And you really do see the separation between client and and workers by that point.
Relationship University, right there. Relationship University.
Jake, it's all about networking.
When do you graduate college?
I graduate next spring. So
nice.
2022. Yeah, it's from Elmira. From there, I'm probably done. I'm not moving on. I don't think. I think this will be it.
So this has been awesome. We're gonna have you back on in a year. Okay, we don't say that to everybody, but we're saying that to you, Jake.
Okay, thank you.
What's your advice to a high school senior right now?
Ooh, advice to a high school senior. I would say just stick with it. It sucks to go through school at first, but you'll learn routines. Make sure, I know everybody else says this, make sure that all your schoolwork is done on time. Rely on the Google Calendar as much as you can. because that saves lives. And just make sure you're keeping time for yourself is the most important, I think.
I feel like you're talking to your 18-year-old self right now. Not
I
an
am.
average teenager.
I am. Yeah.
That's funny.
Jake, I appreciate you coming on. Any last questions, Matt?
No, Jake, it was great seeing you. You know, we ought to grab lunch ourselves here in the near future. It'd be great to catch up with you in person.
Absolutely. Yeah. I look forward to seeing you guys, you know, especially at lunch. I mean, that's where the business talk happens besides the golf course.
All right. I'll make it happen, guys. Jake, hey, good luck
Awesome.
with the rest of your school year. We'll talk soon.
Yes. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks,
You got
Jake.
it. See ya.
Take care. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.